Chapter 1. Friendship. An essential attribute of creatures is dependence. The idea of an absolutely independent creature is self-contradictory. This property of dependence we see existing all about us in the physical world, in the mutual attraction and repulsion of atoms to form bodies, in the combination of bodies to form the earth. The globe on which we live receives light, heat, and motion from the sun. Our satellite, the moon, clings to the earth, and our whole solar system is influenced from without. Nowhere in space will you find a lost star, an unattached planet. The invisible chain of gravity binds together all the heavenly bodies and swings them off in their appointed orbits. Nothing is sufficient of and for itself. Created force that does not proceed from and tend to something outside of itself is inconceivable. And this innate tendency to seek rest and support in something else is found not alone in purely material things, but it is exemplified too in the moral nature of man. None of us is strong enough to stand alone. We need assistance of some kind. Man was created apparently incomplete in himself. Like the climbing vine, he is ever waving about the tendrils of his affections, feeling for some object to twine and fasten to. Even in the state of original justice was this true, for God saw that it was not good for Adam to be alone, strong and perfect though he was, and so he gave him a helpmeet. Nowhere is the clinging nature of the heart more beautifully displayed than in family life, where husband, wife, and children are bound together with the strong cords of affection. In the family has been cradled all that is best and fairest in human aspiration and achievement, and round it cluster the fragrant memories of what is purest and most sacred in each one's life. Chateaubriand says somewhere that in the family there are 14 different shades and varieties of affection, corresponding to the various relationships existing in it. There are the relationships of husband to wife, of father to son, of father to daughter, of mother to son, and mother to daughter, of brother to brother, and brother to sister, and the reciprocal relations of wife to husband, of son to father, and son to mother, of daughter to father, and daughter to mother, of sister to brother, and sister to sister. And from each of these relations arises a distinct variation of love with its own peculiar quality of tenderness. But family affections, wide and absorbing as they are, do not exhaust man's capacity for loving. He seems forced to go beyond its pale and find other kindred souls on which to lavish his affections. No one is so callous as not to call someone friend. And here we strike the theme of friendship on which so many of the world's greatest minds and pens have employed themselves. Poets have sung its praises, and sages endeavoured to plumb its depths, but it ever remains a new and entrancing subject of delight to young generations. No one is satisfied with hearing or reading of it. Each would test and experience it for himself. Perhaps nothing finer from a natural standpoint has ever been written on friendship than Cicero's celebrated treatise, which has incurred the fate considered so harrowing by Juvenal, of being spelled and tortured by schoolboys for 20 centuries. In it he gives the quaint theory of a learned man of Agrigentum, which is certainly more poetical, if less scientific, than some more modern explanations of the attractive and repulsive forces of matter, that bodies are drawn together by friendship, or held apart by discord. A pretty touch of nature that shows all the world akin, he brings out in the thunderous applause that filled the theatre, when in a new play by Marcus Pacuvius the king pronounced death sentence on Orestes, and straightway the devoted friends, Orestes and Pylades, both strenuously claim to be that person. Even inspired writers are impelled to speak of friendship, and when they touch the subject there is an unwonted glow and warmth to their pen. We are told by one of them that a steadfast friend shall be to thee as thyself, that a faithful friend is a strong defence, and we are warned not to forsake an old friend, for the new will not be like him until first mellowed with age, like rich old wine. To understand what is meant by a friend ought not to be difficult, since the word is found in frequent use in all languages and amongst all peoples, and hence must represent one of the early concepts of the mind. One who performs a kindly deed is said to act in a kind or friendly manner, and if he frequently repeats such actions so as to evidence an habitual attitude of disinterested goodwill toward another, he is ordinarily styled a friend. It is true that one may be moved to confer a benefit by some selfish motive, by self-interest, or the hope of an equivalent return, but such conduct does not merit the name of friendship. The true friend forgets self, and thinks only of the welfare of the other. Friendship then requires one to think kindly of another, to esteem him and wish him well, and so is based on love. This is universally admitted, and it is patent from the fact that in many languages love and friendship are expressed by the same word, or at least by words derived from the same root. Even in English, the word friend is only the participle of an Anglo-Saxon word which means to love. And what expression is more commonly heard than the love of friendship, which is evidence that the mind regards the one but as a species of the other. Friendship's an abstract of love's noble flame. 'Tis love refined and purged from all its dross, the next to angels' love, if not the same. Now love is an act of the will, and the will, like any other faculty, has its own proper object. As sounds are perceived by the ear, and colours by the eye, as the intellect assents to truth, so the will finds rest in the good. Of its very nature, it loves what is good and hates what is evil. It cannot love evil as such. Evil may masquerade as good, and so deceive the will into a false love, and what is good may deck itself in so attractive a garb as to beget an intemperate or inordinate desire of it. But good in some shape or form is ever the proper object of love, and the love of friendship is no exception to this rule. In natural friendship we base our goodwill to another on his own goodness. We give him our love because we consider him worthy of it. There may be partners in crime, but never friends. True friendship, then, at its best, can exist only between the good and for a good end. Are we to conclude from this that mere love and admiration of another are sufficient to constitute friendship, or is something further required? Far back in his day, the prince of pagan philosophers, Aristotle, essayed to define friendship: mutua aliquorum benevolentia non latens, the mutual and known goodwill of one for another. One may esteem and love you highly, and yet, if you are not aware of his sentiments, you are not properly his friend. And even when you learn his attitude toward you, you still give him no right to call you friend until you accept his offering of affection, and let him know that you reciprocate it. Friendship, then, is a mutual love, and though called forth by the consideration of another's worth, it remains free in the giving. Love is a capricious force, setting ordinary laws at defiance, refusing to come under hard-set canons and rules, and delighting in wayward impulse and inconsistency. You cannot force it. It demands absolute freedom, and you would be spontaneous as the cloud that leaps from the sea at the kiss of the sun. You cannot bind or halter, command or purchase it. Of its essence it is a free gift and unpurchasable. Many things in the world are for barter, sordid things, which the earthly-minded prize and spend their lives in the endeavour to obtain. Place and power, affluence and ease are among the mercenary things that are bought and sold in the market-place, and some cynically claim that everything may be had for money. But the true, genuine things of life, which are really worth the having, are all unpurchasable. Is happiness a marketable commodity? Or love, or honour, virtue, truth, or fidelity? The inspiration derived from the starry heavens, from the glory of sunrise, the elevation of mind produced by the wide prospect of field and meadow, bending sky and sweep of ocean, are possessions beyond price. Such things are the inheritance of the race, which cannot be taken from it, or trafficked in for exclusive use or ownership. They are largesses to it from the Creator. And one of these gifts, which money cannot buy, is the love of a friend. It comes to us unsought, or at least is ours for the asking. And if it does not so come, all the wealth of the Orient will not get it for us. But though friendship's love is given free, it must have a return of love, or it cannot live. The saying is that love feeds on air. It were truer, perhaps, to say that it feeds on love. It surrenders self, but it still lives in another, and so it comes to pass that in all literature a friend is styled another self, an image of self, the other half of one's soul. I was his soul, he lived not but in me, sings Dryden. Diogenes defines friends as one soul in two bodies, and Shakespeare considers them to have two seeming bodies, but one heart. Scripture sets its seal of approval on this manner of speaking when it says that a steadfast friend shall be to thee as thyself, tibi quasi coequalis. Since love consists in so close a riveting of hearts, it would seem natural to conclude that it flourishes best between equals. St. Jerome does not hesitate to say that friendship either finds equals or makes them. Where no interest, pursuit, or similarity of taste exists in common, it is evident that nothing serves to draw the wills together, to unite them as a mysterious cement of the soul. Where strict equality is found, writers tell us that friendship is generally strongest, and that when wanting, its absence must be compensated by some identity of purpose or interest, to the attainment of which each contributes according to his means and ability. Here, though equality be lacking, at least there exists a harmony and proportion of will sufficient to raise the barriers of separation. Men closely bound by friendship's tie ordinarily feel so keenly the chafing of inequality that the superior strives to keep his own eminence in the background, and at the same time to elevate his friend, as near as may be, to his own station. Thus we read in Scripture that King Alexander, wishing to make Jonathan, the valiant brother of Judas Maccabeus, his confederate and friend, appointed Him High Priest of His nation, and sent Him a purple robe and a crown of gold to raise Him to a dignity worthy of a King's friend. End of chapter 1.